As promised in my community post, we're going to look today at the Monastic Diurnal, the version published by Lancelot Press, a very interesting publisher group. If you haven't heard of Lancelot Press, they republish Anglican and Roman Catholic devotionals and missals for use among the Western Rite within the Orthodox Church. But I know a lot of Anglicans and a couple of Roman Catholics love their products. I certainly love them. But by this is not a paid sponsorship. This is just me giving them due praise. So the full title is The Monastic Diurnal, or The Day Hours of the Monastic Breviary, according to the Holy Will of St. Benedict, with rubrics and devotions for his recitation in accordance with the Book of Common Prayer. That is right. This is a fully Anglican diurnal. And keep in mind, this is a diurnal, which are day offices, not the full breviary. The difference is that a breviary includes the offices of matins up to Compline, whereas the diurnal only has lauds to Compline. Now, this is originally published by Oxford University Press in the 1930s and was going to be republished in the 1960s. Now, much of the rubrics follow the pre-1955, I believe, edition of the Roman office. It has a very, very nice preface from the Reverend Winifred Douglas, who was a canon in the Episcopal Diocese of Fond du Lac. For those who don't know about the Diocese of Fond du Lac, they are a traditional Anglo-Catholic diocese within the Episcopal Church in the state of Wisconsin. They are blessed with having the Episcopal shrine to Our Lady of Walsingham in a parish church in Kenosha. That's enough about that. Let's dive right in to the book. Table of contents here has all your rubrics, your tables, the Psalter, and additional commemorations such as propers of the seasons, the saints, the common of the saints, the office of the dead, the office of St. Mary, penitential psalms, litany of the saints, office of the dead, confession, absolution, penance, preparation for the Mass, and just about everything you would need in a day office. All the movable feasts, which use I guess you can call it the old calendar system, which is just prior to the liturgical renewal movement in the 1970s and 80s. So if you are a old calendarist Anglican, I highly recommend this as a calendar of the saints with their types, which is memorials, semi-doubles, first-class doubles, double first, second class, etc., etc. Now we're getting to the Psalter itself, just to kind of show you what it looks like. It has the opening prayers before the Divine Office and the concluding prayers. The Our Father, the Hail Mary, and the Creed. Now before every office, you pray the Our Father and the Hail Mary. And the Creed is at the beginning of Prime and at the end of Compline. Unless you follow the Roman custom on Saturdays of saying the Shema Yisrael, which I will usually add after saying the Creed, as that used to be the custom. Jump straight into the opening verses of O God, make speed to save me, or make haste to help me, etc., etc. Jump straight into Monday at Prime. Now, as I said, Prime opens with Death Fire, the Hail Mary, and the Creed. The opening verses, the opening hymn, which does have variation according to the season when there's a doxology. Antiphons and the Psalter. For those who have not prayed the Benedictine office or any offices in the Western Rite, it emphasizes heavy use of the Psalter and short lessons, which vary by the season. And again, there's a lot of variation based on the season and if there's like octaves. So in some instances, like the Creed and the Confiteor will be omitted. Now this gives you two options for the Confiteor: the Tridentine version and the Sarum version. I myself use the Tridentine version of the Confiteor. Additional collects. Now you have your option in some offices with collects. You either have the one that's used in the Roman Catholic Church, or you can use the one from the prayer book as indicated PB, or prayer book. Now Prime is unique in that you have the capitular office afterwards, which is involves reading from a martyrology. If it be a saint's feast day, an additional collect, whether it be from the Roman office or from the Book of Common Prayer. Now, chapter meeting usually occurs afterwards, which in a monastery involves a short lesson and also a reading from the Rule of St. Benedict, and then the Office of the Dead, which concludes Prime. Now, Prime is said at sunrise in the office, and then you get Lauds, which is said after Matins, or right, usually in conjunction with it. Follows the very similar structure: your readings, your psalms, your collects, hymns, along with your canticles, which in the case of Lauds is the Benedictus Dominus, and with Vespers, the Song of Mary, Magnificat. And it varies by the day. You have different psalms, because the idea is that you pray a good portion of the Psalter throughout the week and throughout the season, if it be a saint's feast day. So we're going to actually skip to what today is. Now, the day I'm recording this is a Friday. So, and I'm recording this at around 4 p.m., just after None, or the office in the afternoon. Now, this is throughout the week. The difference is that if it's a Sunday, you pray portions of Psalm 119, whereas throughout the week, you pray some of the Psalms from the Gradual Psalms, which are Psalms 121 to 134, respectively. Then we open with your Our Father, your Hail Mary, opening verses, the hymn. Seasonal antiphons, your psalms, your short reading, which varies by the season. And then, Lord have mercy upon us, Christ have mercy upon us, Lord have mercy upon us, followed by the Lord's Prayer, and then the seasonal collect. And the time of recording this, we are in the third Sunday after Trinity. So I would say the prayer book collect. And the day I'm recording this is June the 30th, so it is, pardon me, the commemoration of St. Paul, the Apostle of the Gentiles. So I would pray the appropriate collect. And because it is the day after the commemoration of St. Peter, I'll pray a memorial in commemoration of St. Peter. And then the office would end with, may the souls of the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in peace, followed by the Lord's Prayer. A lot of moving parts in the daily office. And because yesterday was the common of an apostle at a Paschaltide, there are appropriate antiphons and psalms, unless specified in the rubrics. We'll skip ahead. You have the office for the dead. Actually, first we have the office of St. Mary, which is to be prayed on Saturdays. It begins at Vespers on a Friday, and it continues into the office of None, or None, how you pronounce that, and also within Paschaltide. You typically do not pray this office during Advent, nor in Lent, as appropriate collects for the season. The office of the dead, which according to custom is usually said before a requiem mass or the burial, opens with Vespers. Now this is a rare instance where it actually includes the office of Matins. So I'm going to skip through these collects for the dead. At Matins, there are a handful of offices in here that include a section for Matins, which is divided into the appropriate nocturnes, appropriate psalms, and for example, if it's Holy Week, which does include monastic matins in here, has readings from the scriptures and also from the patristics and church fathers. It has 3 nocturnes, the office for the dead at Matins, and then it goes right into lauds and the remaining hours. After lauds of the dead, it goes right into the gradual psalms, which are customarily prayed before major festivals such as the Feast of Sacred Heart, Christmas, Easter. Now the gradual psalms is a grouping of psalms by 4s from 120 to 134 with prayers and collects in between each grouping. It's a very quick office, I've said it plenty of times leading up to major holy days. The 7 penitential psalms with the Litany of the Saints. Typically, these are prayed in Lent and can be prayed leading up to the Litany of the Saints. Now, this Litany of the Saints uses post-Great Schism saints, such as Holy St. Francis, for example, among the list of monastics, including Holy Father St. Benedict, Holy Dominic, etc., etc. I should note that the Litany of the Saints did somewhat influence Cranmer's Great Litany, along with some of Luther's prayers. It's a very, very long devotion. The Litany of the Saints, which are prayed at certain times of the year. Visitation of the sick, which is typically done by the priest if someone is near death, which includes absolution, anointing, and a viaticum, or final communion if necessary. The commendation of a soul. And the prayers for the very expiration of the faithful person being prayed over with the Sub Venite. The itinerary, which are prayers to be said before you go on a long journey, as well as prayers for Thanksgiving. Afterwards are usually included in the itinerary. Preparation and prayers before Mass, which includes the appropriate psalms Collects, Prayer of St. Ambrose, and the Prayer of St. Thomas Aquinas, as well as the Declaration of Intent before Mass, which is usually said by those who are assisting at the celebration or the celebrant himself, and the Thanksgiving after Mass. It says the prayers of St. Thomas Aquinas, the prayer of St. Bonaventure, the prayer, the Anima Christi, which is according to St. Ignatius of Loyola, the Suscipe, prayers for the dying, and prayer before a crucifix, which in the Roman Catholic Church does grant you a plenary indulgence. I know this because I went to Catholic school, and this was encouraged a lot, to stack up those indulgences to buy yourself out of purgatory. But with Anglicanism, it's generally seen as just a pious prayer before Christ crucified. Make of that what you will. The prayer is for penance and an index. So it's a very, very solid prayer book. This is actually blessed for use in the Antiochian Orthodox Church within their Benedictine monasteries. To my knowledge, unfortunately, there are no Episcopal Benedictine monasteries that use this. Most right now have gone to using the Book of Common Prayer, which, even though it is a symbol of our Anglican identity, the prayer book, I personally think that Benedictines within the Episcopal Church and the larger Anglican Communion, while keeping faithful to the prayer book for Matins and Vespers, I think should strongly consider using this for the lesser hours. Unfortunately, it has not been blessed for use in the Episcopal Church or the Anglican Communion at all. I think it is a tragic loss that we have moved away from these within the monastic world. However, in some non-cloistered communities, such as the Fellowship of St. Luke, to my knowledge, they tend to be a little more loose, except when in convocation they use the Book of Common Prayer. I know for a while there was a Franciscan order that used the Anglican Breviary, which includes all the offices from the Roman Rite, but edited to be in lockstep with the Book of Common Prayer, was used until roughly the early 2000s, to my knowledge, until they switched to using the itinerant Book of Common Prayer. Now, what to get from all this? If you wish to follow the rule of St. Benedict, if you're a Benedictine oblate, a non-cloistered Benedictine, or just want to pray more, I recommend this little gem. It's small, fits in a coat pocket, holds up well. You can tell it's been used quite a bit. It is a little bit pricey, but in the end, I think it is worth the cost.